of designated terrorist groups, a list that notably does not include the Houthis. So if Hasan moved to Norway, would he then be all good to go on saying positive things about them? And furthermore, somebody supporting the cause of a group like the Houthis doesn't mean that they support all of their tactics.
Any kind of violence against civilians is completely unjustifiable.
Speaking positively of a group is not the same as endorsing every action they've ever taken, and collapsing that distinction is how you wind up with a completely useless definition of support. Now, there is obviously some utility to the word terrorism in humanitarian and international law, but that's just not really what's typically being discussed when most people say this stuff about Hasan. Most of them are just saying he supports terrorism and terrorism is bad, which is not really an argument. I have a lot more to say about this topic, but I'll keep it short and say that you're kind of telling on yourself if your big criticism of Hasan is that he, quote, supports terrorism. Because while he does express views that a lot of people find uncomfortable, his position on this is actually closer to that of a significant portion of international legal scholars, human rights organizations, and frankly, a lot of the world outside of the West.
And the entirety of the scholarly work on annual resistance movements. My position is literally international law, okay? That occupied peoples have a right to defend themselves militarily against an occupation. That is just straight up international law. You can get mad about it, but all of this like terror jacketing nonsense, all this like terrorism, he's a terrorist, he supports terrorism, all of that is a way to sidestep the actual conversation that many of these people are not mentally equipped to have. That's it. Yeah, grassroots volunteer groups defend their town against their rising settler violence. Fundamentally describes the PLO, Hamas, PFLP, Hezbollah, and all other anti-Zionist resistance factions. When these guys get too effective, Israel will just bomb them and say they're terrorists. Yeah, Palestinians in Sinjil, occupy West Bank, have formed a grassroots volunteer group to defend their town from rising settler violence, saying the Israeli military and their own government have proved unable or unwilling to protect them.
I mean, hell, George Lucas made billions of dollars off of terrorism. So to be honest, I can't even really evaluate the truth of this claim because it's kind of a nonsensical, thought-terminating criticism, and I don't even really know what the fuck people are actually saying when they make it. And speaking of terrorism, Hasan interviewed a terrorist. Let's keep this brief. Hasan interviewed Rashid al-Haddad in early 2024. He's a Yemeni influencer and self-described media personality and photographer. Hasan was under the impression before the interview that Rashid was affiliated with the Houthis, probably because of the nickname that people gave him on social media, but he quickly corrected himself when he realized that he wasn't. There is no evidence that Rashid participated in seizing any ships or has any formal Houthi association. People use really dumb pieces of evidence to say, oh no, he is a Houthi, like this Instagram comment, where he just says he is a soldier, which could mean almost anything, or the photos that he took on this captured vessel, which was open to the public for photos. But ultimately, it wouldn't really matter if he was a Houthi. Hasan should be allowed to interview terrorists on stream.
Yes, 100%. I'm not on Twitch, but people do it all the fucking time. And yes, of course, I reserve the right to be able to do that, which I made very clear. That was another one of these fucking arguments that I found so stupid because I was like, he's not a Houthi, but I will and should be able to interview a Houthi if I fucking want to. Like, that's what's so fucking crazy, where I was like, they would be like, oh, you interviewed a Houthi and you're lying about it. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just telling you what the fucking truth is, you stupid idiot. And I'm also telling you, like, I would do it.
There's no evidence that this guy is one. Rashid is currently suing Ethan Klein for repeatedly calling him a terrorist. So based on the evidence that we have, this one's also kind of bullshit. And finally, Hasan is anti-Semitic. This claim could be its own video, and this one's long enough as it is, so I'll keep this brief too. The evidence that people cite for Hasan being anti-Semitic is either extremely amorphous and vague, or simply not good evidence at all. There's him calling a chatter pig dog.
You fucking bloodthirsty, violent pig dog! Suck my dick!
Which people claimed was an anti-Semitic slur, even though it doesn't appear in common anti-Semitism glossaries.
Because it's not! Because they made it up after the fact! They just sit around and wait for me to say something creative. They literally, it's not! It's so not that, like, most people don't even know what it is, where they're like, what? I don't really know. This one, yeah, maybe it's because he said pig, and, you know, people used to call pigs, Jews pigs. Is that what it is? I don't really fully get it, but it's fine. They made it up. It's an ad hoc response. They made it up after the fact. It's in Shrek, dude. Puss in Boots calls people capitalist pig dogs. It's in fucking Shrek. It's in Command and Conquer 3. It's so ridiculous. It's made up. It's made up. But again, this is how easy it is.
and Hasan primarily uses it to describe capitalists and imperialists.
You imperialist, capitalist pig dog, you fucking violent murderer of the third world.
There's him calling Orthodox Jewish settlers inbred, which was clearly just supposed to be an insult directed at people who subscribe to a racist ideology, not Jewish people as a group.
You know, the broad majority of the ultra-Orthodox are also unimaginably racist and very much pro-Israel. I can't wait for these inbred motherfuckers to have to serve and see what happens to the IDF.
And beyond that, most of the rest of it are just these nebulous, broader claims about his positions on Israel and how they point to an underlying bigotry. But almost every single example that people use for this often could be better explained by him simply being anti-Zionist. For instance,
At least Twitch waits for you, waits for the stream to be finished before they ban you. See you in 7 days, chat. No, that's not. Dude, we're literally talking about the fact that it's not a term that was not even vaguely considered an anti-Semitic term. Like, that's worse than even fucking Crackergate, if that's the case. Then anything and everything could be considered a slur. That's the whole point. Like I'm sorry. That's crazy.
people often point to things like Hasan saying that rapes having happened on October 7th wouldn't change his perspective as evidence of anti-Semitism. But that's not anti-Semitic. It's actually a pretty consistent application of Hasan's anti-imperialist framework. And if there's a perceived double standard in how aggressively he talks about Israel versus other actors, it could very easily be explained by his own family background in the Middle East, or the region's history, rather than automatically assuming it's just secret racial animus towards Jews. He isn't uniquely fixated on Jewish institutions. He applies this same lens to American imperialism, Saudi Arabia, capitalism, and plenty of other power structures. I think in 2026, if you look for anti-Semitism hard enough, you'll kind of see what you want to see. But the idea that this progressive, leftist, anti-class, equality-minded type of audience are actually secretly racist towards this one group of people, it's a pretty big stretch when these people are consistently anti-racist on every other axis. Now, the more sophisticated version of this argument is that even if Hasan never says anything explicitly anti-Semitic, his rhetoric still functions to foster hostility towards Jewish people, even if that isn't his intent. This is basically the functional racism version of the argument. It's the same thing as saying voter ID laws are racist. It's not because the people writing them necessarily want to disenfranchise black people, but because they do disproportionately cause that to happen. But for one, that argument requires you to subscribe to a view of racism that isn't really speaking to the character or intent of the individual, which kind of makes it have less bite. And two, that's if you subscribe to that framework, which I personally don't. So in my opinion, calling Hasan anti-Semitic isn't even misleading. It's just not substantiated. There are obviously a lot more claims we could go through, but the pattern is pretty clear. The lies about Hasan Piker that come from this side of the internet
Oh, the make
are pervasive.
drones one, that was awesome. Laura Loomer loves using that. The just make drones to do acts of terrorism.
Widespread, and an embarrassing number of them fall apart under even mild scrutiny. This video was focused on the drama and commentary side of this dynamic. Ethan Klein, the people around him, and what they've done to the content creation ecosystem over the last couple of years. But truthfully, this is only half of the story. Hasan also gets a hysterical level of hate from the more genuinely politically oriented crowd too, and that stuff could probably be its own video. But at some point, the commentary slop guys started getting courted by the politics sphere to the Hasan bad cause anyway. And then when you have creators like Hutch, who covered Collargate for a
Yeah, that's the other side of the story. If it was just like Loner Box or the Ukraine guy or Hutch, if it was just those guys, then it's like pretty obvious. Like the audiences that they have are inherently political. So like they're slotting themselves into a specific ideology, specific ideological tendency. But these apolitical slop tubers don't do that. So they have a broad base. And this broad base is slated for, going on a political journey and learning more about the world, learning more about politics. And those guys end up developing this weird, unnecessary antagonism towards me and my worldview. And the unfortunate reality there is like, it's kind of sad that those guys often find themselves on this right-wing pipeline because they drama slop tuber videos. You know what I mean? They watch one too many drama slop tour videos and they go, I hate everything that this guy likes. I like everything that this guy hates. And that's it.
month straight, and whose channel often looks almost indistinguishable from Nuxtaku's. It's just at a certain point, these two groups kind of start to morph together into this big, neurotic mess, and it just gets a little hard to keep taking them as seriously. Now, there are decent criticisms of Hasan. For example, in his interview with Rashid, he laughs along at the idea of Houthi pirates dancing and having fun with their captives, which could be Hasan basically sanitizing a Stockholm Syndrome type of situation. If you're gonna have this type of interview, you probably need to come in more prepared to handle those moments responsibly. He's also an extremely sloppy communicator, and at a certain point, if you're getting clipped dishonestly this much, you gotta be doing something wrong somewhere. And there are plenty of these.
Dog, you literally just described the form and the function. I speak for 10 hours. Well, not 10 hours. I speak for 7 hours, sometimes 8 hours, sometimes 6 hours a day on politically charged topics from a perspective that many Americans are either oblivious to or antagonistic towards. Okay. And then to top that off, I have an unbelievable Legion of Groom style a group of villains that will mass brigade, smear, and do everything in their power to try to get me fucking deplatformed. I am willing to bet. I will say this. I don't think I ever have, but I'll say it right now. I don't think there could ever be another person that would do this kind of commentary this consistently for this many years and not have the same exact level of mania associated with them, especially if they had the same level of insanity in their ops. It's impossible. And I came to terms with that reality a long time ago. It's impossible. I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm a fucking hero or anything like that. I'm an insane person. I'm a very stubborn person. And maybe a little insane. Okay. But that's precisely the reason why it's fucking impossible. I'll give you an example. Someone who does it for shorter bouts of time, but also is seen as a villain in this sphere, Michael from Pennsylvania. And the more he starts getting motion, the more he interviews candidates, the more he's going to appear on Fox News. Like, he also gets fucking attacked nonstop too. And it's not because he's a sloppy communicator. It's because this is how it works. This is just how it works.